Commander Ji-hoon stood alone on the observation deck of the massive ship called Eternal Dawn. The huge metal walls around him shook with the sound of celebration coming from every level of the giant vessel. Through the thick glass windows, he could see hundreds of other ships floating in the dark space around them. All of them were filled with alien soldiers who thought they had just won the greatest war in galactic history. The Galactic Coalition Army had spent 3 long years fighting the terrible Vorthan Empire. The Vorthans were a cruel race that had tried to conquer peaceful worlds across the galaxy for over 50 years. Their black ships had burned entire planets and enslaved billions of innocent people. But now the war was finally over. The Coalition had used their most powerful weapons to destroy the Vorthan homeworld and crush their military forever. At least that was what everyone believed. Ji-hoon watched as strange alien creatures danced and sang in the corridors below him. The bat-like kelvans were hanging upside down from the ceiling, making their happy clicking sounds that echoed through the metal halls. Their furry wings flapped with joy as they shared bottles of their favorite purple drink with anyone who walked. By the tall, blue-skinned Nexari were flashing bright colors across their crystal-like bodies. Each flash meant a different happy emotion in their ancient language. Near the main dining area, Ji-hoon could see the 4 armed Hectorans playing their traditional victory drums. The sound was so loud, it made the ship walls vibrate. The snake-like reptilians were coiled together in large groups, hissing songs that sounded beautiful, even though Ji-hoon could not understand the words, even the tiny pixel creatures were flying around in happy circles, leaving trails of golden sparkles behind them. Every species in the Coalition was celebrating except one. Where were the humans? Ji-hoon had fought alongside human soldiers for 2 years before joining the Coalition command structure. He knew them well. They were brave fighters who never gave up even when things looked hopeless. They were also the best at making friends with other species. Human soldiers always shared their food and told funny stories that made everyone laugh even during the worst battles. But now that the war was over, the humans were nowhere to be seen. The official report said that Earth forces were busy with cleanup operations in the Outer Rim systems. They were supposedly hunting down the last few Vorthan ships that had escaped the final battle. Admiral Young-ho had personally assured the Coalition Council that human fleets would rejoin the main celebration within a few days. Something about that explanation made Ji-hoon feel worried. He had tried to contact his human friends many times over the past 3 weeks. Every message he sent came back with the same automatic reply. Human military communications were temporarily restricted due to ongoing security operations. Please wait for further instructions. That was not like humans at all. They loved to talk and share news, especially after winning a big fight. Ji-hoon remembered how excited they got after every small victory during the war. They would call everyone they knew to share the good news and invite alien friends to join their parties. Lieutenant Mina walked up behind Ji-hoon. Her green-scaled skin was shining under the bright lights of the observation deck. Like all reptilians, she moved very quietly, so Ji-hoon did not hear her coming until she spoke. Commander, the victory feast begins in 1 hour. The council expects all senior officers to attend. Admiral Young-ho specifically asked for you to sit at the high table with the other war heroes. Ji-hoon nodded, but did not turn away from the window. He kept staring out at the dark space beyond the fleet. In the distance, he could see the orange glow of the destroyed Vorthan homeworld. The Coalition had used planet-killer weapons to end the war quickly. Those terrible devices could crack a world apart and turn it into floating rocks and dust. It was an effective way to win, but it was also cruel. Billions of Vorthan civilians had died along with their military. The Coalition leaders said it was necessary to prevent future wars, but Ji-hoon wondered if the humans agreed with that decision. Mina followed his gaze toward the ruined planet. "Sir, you seem troubled. This should be a night of celebration. We have brought peace to the galaxy after so many years. Of war I know, Ji-hoon replied quietly. But something feels wrong. Why are the humans really not here? Why can no one contact Earth or any of the human colonies? What are they actually doing in the outer rim? Before Mina could answer, they heard footsteps. Approaching, a group of coalition officers walked onto the observation deck. They were laughing and already drinking the special victory wine that had been saved for this moment. Captain Salman, the four-armed Hectoran, was telling a loud story about the final battle. And then their flagship exploded into 1,000,000 pieces, she said, waving all four of her arms for effect. The other officers cheered and raised their glasses high. The Vorthons never knew what hit them. Ji-hoon listened to their happy talk, but his mind was somewhere else. He was thinking about his human friend, Master Chief Tae-hyung from the Earth Navy SEALs. Tae-hyung had taught Ji-hoon many things about human military tactics during their time fighting together. Humans always have. Backup plans, Tae-hyung had said during one of their late-night conversations. They prepare for things that might go wrong, even when everything seems to be going right. That is how they survived on their dangerous homeworld for thousands of years. The memory made Ji-hoon feel even more worried. If the humans were really just doing cleanup work, why had they not sent even one ship to join the celebration? Why were their communications completely cut off? What kind of backup plan might they have far? Below, in the deepest levels of the eternal dawn, a shadow moved through the dark corridors. The figure wore a stolen coalition uniform and carried fake identity papers that would fool any security scanner. But underneath the disguise was someone who did not belong on this shipmaster. Chief Tae-hyung of the United Earth Navy. SEALs had been hiding on coalition vessels for over 2 months. He was not alone. 11 other human special operations soldiers were scattered across the fleet, hiding in maintenance areas and empty storage rooms. They had been watching and waiting and learning everything they could about coalition plans and weaknesses. Tonight, their real mission would finally begin. Tae-hyung moved like a ghost through the metal corridors. His special training had taught him how to walk without making any sound and how to avoid the alien security cameras. He knew exactly where he was going because he had spent weeks memorizing every detail of the ship layout. The coalition thought they had won the war, but they had no idea what was really happening. Human intelligence had discovered something terrible about their alien allies, something that would change everything. Earth had been preparing for this moment for almost 2 years ever since they learned the truth about coalition intentions. The aliens did not just want to defeat the Vorthons. They wanted to eliminate every possible threat to their power in the galaxy. And humans were next on their list. The celebration above would continue for several more hours, giving Tae-hyung and his team time to complete their preparations. The coalition officers would drink and dance and tell stories about their great victory. They would make speeches about peace and friendship between all species, but they would also make other plans. Plans that involved human worlds and human lives. Plans that no human would ever accept. Tae-hyung reached his destination and began to work. His hands moved quickly and quietly as he prepared. The devices that would soon turn this celebration into something very different. The coalition had made one critical mistake in all their planning. They had never bothered to study human history. They did not understand what happened when humans felt truly threatened. They had no idea what sleeping giant they were about to wake up. Above him, the party continued as thousands of alien soldiers celebrated what they believed was the end of war. But Master Chief Tae-hyung knew better. This was not the end of anything. This was just the beginning. 6 months after the great betrayal was revealed, the war was finally over. Admiral Young-ho and his remaining loyal forces had made their last stand at the secret base in Zerion Prime, but they had been completely defeated by human fleets that surrounded them from every direction. The final battle lasted only 4 hours. Human ships used advanced tactics that the coalition had never seen before, striking from multiple angles simultaneously while their communication systems coordinated every move. With deadly precision, The remaining coalition forces surrendered when they realized that continued fighting would only result in pointless deaths. Admiral Young-ho sat in a detention cell on Luna Base, staring at the gray walls that would be his home until his trial for war crimes was completed. The former Supreme Commander of the coalition military looked older and more tired than anyone had ever seen him. His dreams of galactic conquest had become a nightmare that destroyed everything. He had work to build across from him. Master Chief Tae-hyung reviewed the evidence that would convict dozens of coalition leaders of planning genocide. The files contained recorded conversations, detailed plans for slave camps, and orders for the construction of planet-killer weapons that would have murdered billions of innocent civilians. "You should have studied human history before you tried to fight us," Tae-hyung said quietly. "We have been at war with someone almost continuously for the past 5,000 years. Did you really think you could outfight a species that invented warfare?" Admiral Young-ho looked up at the human soldier with confusion and defeat in his alien eyes. "Your species is barbaric and violent. How?" Admiral Young-ho walked quickly through the bright corridors of the coalition command ship. His polished boots made sharp clicking sounds on the metal floor that echoed off the walls around him. The celebration was still going strong in the main areas of the ship, but he had more important things to do than drink and dance with his officers. He reached the secure conference room and pressed his hand against the scanner. The heavy door slid open with a soft hiss, revealing a circular table, surrounded by floating chairs. The room was designed for the most secret meetings, where only the highest-ranking coalition leaders were allowed. One by one, the other senior officers arrived. Captain Soman entered first, shaking droplets of purple victory wine from her forearms. She had been enjoying the party, but came immediately when she received the Admiral's private message. Commander Nexus floated in next, his crystalline body pulsing with curious blue light. General Krav slithered through the door, his long reptilian body coiling around one of the specially designed chairs. When everyone was seated, Admiral Young-ho activated the room's security systems. The walls began to glow with a faint energy field that would block any listening devices or hidden cameras. Now they could speak freely about things that the regular soldiers could never know. "Gentlemen, ladies, and honored beings." He began, his voice serious and cold. "Our victory celebration must be brief. Phase 2 of our operation begins immediately." Captain Soman leaned forward in her chair. "Sir, our forces are exhausted from 3 years of constant fighting. Surely we can rest for a few weeks before starting the next campaign. Our soldiers deserve time to recover and visit their home worlds." Admiral Young-ho smiled, but there was no warmth in his expression. "Rest is for the weak, Captain. We have momentum now, and we must use it while we can. The human systems are isolated and vulnerable. This is our best chance to eliminate them completely." The room fell silent as his words sank in. Commander Nexus stopped pulsing with blue light and began flashing red patterns of confusion and concern. "Sir, are you suggesting that we attack our human allies? The ones who helped us defeat the Vorthans?" Young-ho touched a control on the table, and holographic displays appeared in the air above them. The images showed detailed maps of human space, including Earth and all the human colonies. Tactical information scrolled past, showing ship positions, defensive capabilities, and population numbers. "Allies," he said with a laugh. "Humans are dangerous barbarians who got lucky with their primitive technology. They fight like wild animals and they breed too quickly. They will become a threat to galactic peace if we allow them to grow stronger." General Krav uncoiled from his chair and moved closer to the displays. "These population numbers are massive," he hissed. "There are over 20 billion humans spread across 47 worlds. How do you propose we deal with so many?" "The same way we dealt with the Vorthons," Admiral Young-ho replied calmly. "We will use the planet-killer weapons to destroy their major worlds simultaneously. The survivors will be too scattered and weak to resist. Then we can use their technology and resources to build the perfect galactic empire, Captain." Soman felt sick as she listened to the plan. "But sir, The humans fought beside us for 3 years. They saved millions of coalition lives during the war. How can we repay their friendship with genocide? Because friendship is a luxury we cannot afford, the Admiral answered coldly. Humans are too unpredictable, too violent, too independent. They will never accept coalition rule willingly, so we must remove them before they become strong enough to challenge us. The other officers looked at each other with growing horror. This was not what they had signed up for when they joined the coalition military. They had believed they were fighting for peace and justice, not for conquest, and murder. Meanwhile, deep in the ship's ventilation system, Master Chief Tae-hyung listened to every word through the tiny surveillance device he had planted in the conference room weeks earlier. His jaw clenched with anger as he heard the coalition leaders planning the destruction of his homeworld and the murder of his people. He activated his encrypted communicator and whispered the code phrase that would change everything. Sleeping giant is awake. Repeat, sleeping giant is awake. The signal traveled instantly across space using quantum communication technology that the coalition did not know humans possessed. Light years away, hidden fleets of human warships received the message and began moving into position. Admiral Hyejin stood on the bridge of the massive battleship Defiance, surrounded by screens showing the positions of over 800 human vessels. Her crew was made up of the best officers and soldiers that Earth had ever produced. They had been waiting for this moment. For 2 years, all ships' battle stations, she commanded calmly. Operation Payback is now active. Across human space, the greatest military force in Earth's history began to move. The coalition had made their plans in secret, but humans had been making their own plans for much longer. They had suspected this betrayal was coming, ever since their intelligence services discovered certain coalition communications that were never meant for human eyes. The human fleets used advanced stealth technology to move through space without being detected by coalition sensors. They had learned these techniques from studying captured Vorthan ships and improving on the designs. The coalition thought humans were primitive, but they had no idea how quickly human engineers could adapt and improve alien technology. Back in the conference room, Admiral Young-ho was explaining the timeline for his genocide plan. "We will begin the attacks in 72 hours, he said, pointing to different star systems on the holographic display. Earth will be the primary target, followed by their major colony worlds. But what about the human fleets that are supposedly doing cleanup operations in the Outer Rim?" asked Commander Nexus. "Those fleets are exactly where we want them," replied the Admiral. "Our intelligence reports show they are scattered across dozens of systems hunting down the last Vorthan survivors. They will be too far away to defend their home worlds when we attack." Master Chief Tae-hyung almost laughed as he listened to this. The coalition intelligence was completely wrong. The human fleets were not scattered at all. They were concentrated in hidden positions waiting for the signal to strike. But the aliens had no idea because they had been receiving false information fed to them by human agents. The coalition had always underestimated human abilities. They saw humans as simple warriors who relied on brute force and primitive tactics. They never realized that human military doctrine was based on thousands of years of warfare experience, including the most important lesson of all: never let your enemy know your real strength until it is too late. Admiral Young-ho continued his briefing. "Once we control human space, we will have access to their industrial capacity and their warrior culture. We can use human soldiers as shock troops for future conquests while their scientists work on improving our weapons." The other officers listened in growing horror as their leader described his plans for enslaving humanity. Captain Soman finally found the courage to speak. "Sir, this is not what the coalition stands for. We are supposed to protect peaceful species, not destroy them." The Admiral turned to look at her with cold eyes. "The coalition stands for whatever I say. It stands for Captain. And I say that galactic peace requires the elimination of all potential threats. Outside the conference room, the celebration continued, but several officers had begun to notice that something was wrong. The communication systems were not working properly. Some of the ship's weapons had gone offline for maintenance that nobody remembered scheduling, and there were reports of strange power fluctuations throughout the Fleetmaster. Chief Tai-hyung and his team had been very busy during the past few hours. They had planted devices throughout the coalition ships that would disable key systems when activated. They had also been spreading a special computer virus through the alien. Networks that would give human forces complete access to coalition tactical information. The coalition leaders thought they were about to launch a surprise attack against defenseless human worlds, but they had no idea that they were actually walking into the greatest trap in military history. Admiral Young-ho dismissed his officers and told them to prepare their fleets for departure. The genocide of humanity would begin in less than 3 days. But as the alien commanders left the conference room, none of them noticed the small device hidden in the ventilation grate above their heads. Master Chief Tae-hyung had heard enough. He knew exactly what the coalition was planning, and he knew that human forces were already moving to stop them. The sleeping giant was awake, and it was very, very angry. The real war was about to begin. Across the galaxy, human fleets emerged from hyperspace like wolves appearing from a dark forest. The coalition had expected humanity to fight defensively around Earth. Instead, they found human warships materializing in orbit above their most important. World's Admiral Yejin stood on the bridge of the battleship Defiance, watching her tactical displays show 12 simultaneous battles beginning at once. Her fleet had just dropped out of hyperspace above the Kelvian homeworld, where millions of bat-like aliens lived in floating cities among the clouds. The Kelvian defense fleet scrambled to meet them, but they were not prepared for what they faced. Human ships moved with deadly precision targeting coalition military installations while carefully avoiding civilian areas. The aliens had built their defenses to stop Vorthan raiders, not human battle fleets. Target their command ship first. Admiral Hyejin ordered her weapons officer disable their communications and navigation systems, but do not destroy the vessel. We need prisoners for intelligence gathering. The human fleet moved like a single organism, every ship working together with perfect coordination. Their weapons systems had been upgraded with technology captured from the Vorthons during the war, but improved by human engineers who understood combat better than any other species. Captain Dong-yun commanded the destroyer Retribution as it engaged a coalition battle group near the Nexari crystal worlds. His crew worked with the efficiency that came from years of training and combat experience. They had fought beside coalition forces against the Vorthons, but now those same allies had become enemies. "Sir, we are receiving surrender signals from 3 coalition vessels," reported his tactical officer. "Should we accept?" "Negative," replied Captain Dong-hyun. "We accept only unconditional surrender from the fleet commander. Continue the attack, but avoid targeting life support systems. We are not here to commit genocide like they planned." For us, the difference between human and coalition military doctrine was becoming obvious to everyone watching the battles. Human forces fought with controlled aggression, targeting only military assets and accepting surrenders from ships that gave up. Fighting the coalition had planned to use planet-killer weapons to murder entire worlds. On the Hectoran homeworld, Captain Soman tried desperately to organize a defense against the human fleet that had appeared without warning in their star system. Her people were brave warriors, but they had been celebrating victory for hours. Many of her officers were still drunk from the victory feast. "How many human ships are there?" she demanded from her tactical station. The sensor operator checked his instruments again and again, his voice filled with disbelief. "Captain, we count 200 vessels, but they are using some kind of stealth technology. There could be more ships that we cannot detect. 200 ships attacking a fortified star. System should have been suicide. But these were not ordinary vessels. Every human warship had been designed by engineers who studied warfare, the way other species studied art or music. Their hulls were armored against weapons that could crack planets. Their shields could absorb energy that would vaporize mountains. Captain Somin watched in horror as her defense platforms were systematically destroyed by human weapons that seemed to strike from impossible angles. The enemy ships moved like they could predict where her forces would be before her commanders had even given their orders. "They fight like they can read our minds," she whispered, back on the coalition flagship. Panic was spreading through every level of the massive ship. Admiral Young-ho had finally managed to reach his command center, but most of his communication systems were still not working. The few reports he could receive painted a picture of disaster. "Sir, we are getting signals from 12 different star systems. Human fleets have launched simultaneous attacks." His intelligence officer reported, "The enemy appears to have over 800 vessels involved in coordinated strikes, 800 ships." Admiral Young-ho could barely believe what he was hearing. That was almost a quarter of the total human fleet. How had they moved so many vessels into position without coalition intelligence detecting them? Where did they come from, he demanded. How did our sensors miss such a large military movement? The intelligence officer looked at his data again. "Sir, our records show that human fleets have been conducting cleanup operations in the Outer Rim systems for the past 3 months. But now it appears that those operations were a deception. The ships we thought were hunting. Vorthan survivors were actually moving into attack positions." The admiral felt cold fear creeping through his body. The humans had been planning this operation for months while pretending to be loyal allies. They had used the time after the Vorthan defeat to position their forces for a massive surprise attack. But that was not the worst news. "Sir, there is something else," the intelligence officer continued. "We are receiving reports that someone has been broadcasting detailed information about our military plans to every coalition world. Civilian populations are learning about the planned attacks on human space." Admiral Young-ho felt his legs go weak. Broadcasting their plans to civilian populations would be a disaster. Most coalition citizens believed their military fought only to protect peaceful worlds. They would never support genocide against their human allies. "Who is doing the broadcasting?" he asked. "The signal appears to be coming from our own ships, sir. Someone has taken control of our communication systems and is using them against us." Master Chief Tai-hyung was indeed using the coalition ship's own equipment to destroy their government from within. He had spent weeks preparing a massive information dump that contained every detail of the planned genocide, evidence of secret meetings, recorded conversations, tactical plans showing which human worlds would be attacked first. The information was being broadcast to every coalition world simultaneously, and the effect was devastating. Billions of alien civilians who had trusted their leaders to protect peace and justice were learning that those same leaders had planned mass murder on the Reptican homeworld. Massive protests erupted in the capital city as citizens demanded answers from their government. How could their representatives support genocide against the humans who had helped defeat the Vorthans? Riot police tried to control the crowds, but even many officers were throwing down their weapons and joining the protesters. Similar scenes played out on dozens of coalition worlds as the truth spread like fire through dry grass. Military units began refusing orders or simply abandoning their posts. Entire fleets declared that they would not participate in attacks against human civilians. The coalition military machine was collapsing, not from external attack, but from internal rebellion against its own government. Admiral Hyejin received reports of the chaos from her intelligence network and smiled grimly. The humans had learned an important lesson during their own history. Governments that lose the support of their people cannot fight wars effectively. She opened a communication channel to all human fleet commanders. Priority message to all units: coalition civilian populations are in revolt against their military leadership. Many alien forces are refusing to fight. Continue operations, but be prepared to accept mass surrenders. The human strategy was working perfectly. They were not just fighting a military campaign, but a war for the hearts and minds of coalition citizens. Most aliens were good people who wanted peace. They had been deceived by leaders who craved power on Earth. President Ji-won addressed an emergency session of the United Nations. Her words were being broadcast to human colonies across space and to any coalition worlds that could receive the transmission. My fellow humans and our alien friends who still believe in justice, she began. We did not choose this war. The coalition leadership chose it when they decided to commit genocide against our people, but we will not respond to their evil with evil of our own. She paused and looked directly into the camera. Every coalition soldier who surrenders will be treated with honor and respect. Every civilian world that renounces their government's actions will be protected. Every being who stands for peace instead of conquest will find humans ready to be their friends. But to those who planned mass murder, against our families, to those who would use planet-killing weapons against innocent worlds, we have this message. You have awakened something that you should have left sleeping. The president ended her speech and immediately received reports that several coalition member worlds were declaring independence from their government and requesting human protection. They no longer wanted to be part of an organization that planned genocide. Admiral Young-ho watched his empire crumble around him as more ships defected and more worlds declared independence. His carefully planned surprise attack had become a complete disaster. The humans had turned his moment of triumph into their greatest victory. In the darkness of the disabled coalition flagship, Master Chief Taehyung smiled as he heard the reports of human success. His mission was complete. The sleeping giant was fully awake, and the galaxy would never be the same. Commander Ji-hoon found Lieutenant Mina in the chaos of the darkened dining hall. Many coalition officers were trying to find ways to contact the human forces to offer their surrender. They had never supported genocide and wanted no part of their leaders' evil plans. Sir Mina said, "What should we do?" Ji-hoon made the decision. That would define the rest of his life. He activated his personal communicator and broadcast on all human military frequencies. This is Coalition Commander Ji-hoon requesting permission to surrender. Admiral Hyejin accepted Commander Ji-hoon's surrender, but she had learned to be very careful when dealing with alien promises. Even coalition officers who claimed to oppose their government's genocide plans could be lying or could change their minds. When the fighting got worse, the Reptican commander and 300 of his followers were brought aboard human ships under heavy guard. They would be kept safe, but they would also be watched constantly. Human intelligence officers began questioning them immediately to learn everything they could about coalition military capabilities and secret plans. What Ji-hoon and the other defectors told them made even experienced human officers feel sick with anger. The coalition plan was not just simple genocide. It was something much worse and more cruel than anyone had imagined. Admiral Young-ho and his supporters wanted to use human technology and resources to build an unstoppable empire across the entire galaxy. Earth, children would be taken from their families and raised as slaves in alien worlds. Human adults would be forced to work in dangerous mining operations until they died from exhaustion or accidents. The coalition saw humanity as useful animals, nothing more. They planned to breed humans like livestock, keeping only the strongest and smartest for their purposes, while killing anyone who showed signs of rebellion or independent thinking. Release all intelligence data to every human ship immediately, Admiral Hyejin commanded. Her communication officers, let every captain and every crew member know exactly what these aliens plan to do to our families and our children. The effect of this information was immediate and terrifying. Human forces that had been showing restraint and following rules of engagement suddenly became relentless hunters. The knowledge that their enemies wanted to enslave human children made every human soldier fight with desperate fury. Captain Dong-yun received the intelligence data while his destroyer was pursuing a coalition fleet near the outer colonies. His crew read the details of the alien plans in stunned silence. Then his weapons officer spoke in a voice filled with cold rage. "Sir, request permission to target their ship's engine. Systems. instead of just disabling their weapons. Permission denied. Captain Dong Yun replied, though his own anger was barely controlled. We are not like them. We do not murder prisoners or commit war crimes, but we will make sure they cannot escape to threaten anyone else ever again. The human fleets continued their attacks, but now they fought with a precision and intensity that terrified their enemies. Coalition ships that tried to run were hunted down without mercy. Alien commanders who refused to surrender found their vessels crippled and boarded by human marines. Near the Hectoran homeworld, Captain Soman tried to rally her remaining ships for one last desperate fight against the human fleet that had appeared from nowhere. Her people were brave warriors who had never known defeat, but they were facing an enemy unlike anything they had ever encountered. They moved like wolves hunting deer, she whispered as she watched human ships coordinate their attacks with perfect timing. Each group of human vessels worked together like a pack of predators, surrounding and isolating their prey before moving in for the kill. Sir, we are receiving surrender offers from 17 of our ships, reported her communication officer. Many of our captains are saying they will not fight to defend genocide against innocent civilians. Captain Soman felt her heart break as she realized that her own people were abandoning the fight. They had learned the truth about what their government planned, and they wanted no part of it. Most coalition soldiers were good beings who had joined the military to protect the innocent, not to murder them. She opened a fleet-wide communication channel. This is Captain Soman to all Hectoran forces I am ordering. A general surrender to human fleets. We have been deceived by our leaders into supporting something evil, and we will not be part of genocide. One by one, her ships powered down their weapons and sent surrender signals to the human fleet. The great Hectoran military tradition of never retreating was broken. But it was broken in service of a higher principle. The protection of innocent Life Master Chief Tae-hyung had completed his mission aboard the coalition flagship, but he was not finished with his war against the aliens who had planned to enslave his people. Using the ship's own communication systems, he began broadcasting even more damaging information to coalition worlds. The data he released included recorded conversations between coalition leaders discussing how they would divide up human territory after the genocide. It showed detailed plans for slave camps where human children would be trained to serve alien masters. It revealed the locations of secret weapons facilities. Where planet-killer devices were being built, the effect on coalition civilian populations was catastrophic. Riots broke out on every major world as billions of aliens learned that their trusted leaders were planning crimes that made the Vorthans look merciful. Government buildings were stormed by angry crowds demanding the arrest of military commanders who supported genocide, but the most devastating revelation was yet to come. Tae-hyung had discovered that the coalition genocide plan was not limited to humans. They also intended to eliminate several other species that they considered potential threats. The peaceful Zen monks of Altair 7, the independent traders of the Spiral Nebula, the fierce but honorable warrior clans of Rigel. Prime, all of them were marked for extinction by coalition leaders who wanted to rule a galaxy populated only by species that would submit completely to their authority. When this information was broadcast, the last remaining support for the coalition government collapsed. Military units across their territory declared independence or openly joined the human cause. Even species that had never been friendly to humans began offering assistance against the common enemy on the Bridge of the Defiance. Admiral Hyjin watched as her tactical displays showed the complete breakdown of coalition resistance. More than half of their fleet had surrendered or defected. The remainder were scattered and demoralized with no central command structure to coordinate their actions. Sir, we are receiving requests for protection from 14 coalition worlds that have declared independence from their government. Captain Minho reported they are asking for human ships to defend them against any remaining Loyal forces, send the closest available fleets to provide protection. Admiral Hygen ordered, "We are liberators, not conquerors. Any world that renounces genocide will have human protection," but she also gave secret orders to her intelligence officers to continue hunting down coalition leaders who had supported the genocide plan. Even if they tried to hide or escape justice, human special forces would find them. The war had become something more than a military campaign. It was now a mission to ensure that no one who planned mass murder against human families would ever be safe anywhere in the galaxy. Commander Ji-hoon was being held in comfortable quarters aboard a human cruiser when he received permission to send a message to coalition forces that were still fighting. He appeared on communication screens throughout the remaining enemy fleet, looking tired and ashamed. "My fellow officers," he began, "I have seen the evidence of what our leaders planned to do. They intended to murder 20 billion innocent humans, including children and elderly civilians. Then they planned to enslave the survivors and use them as breeding stock for future slave generations." He paused and looked directly into the camera. "This is not what we swore to defend when we joined the coalition military. We took oaths to protect the innocent, not to participate in genocide. I am calling on every coalition officer who still has honor to surrender immediately and help stop this madness." His message was broadcast repeatedly on all frequencies, and it had a powerful effect on the remaining coalition forces. Many alien officers had known Ji-hoon for years and trusted his judgment. If he said the human evidence was real, then it probably was within hours. Entire fleets were sending surrender signals to human commanders. The great coalition war machine that had taken decades to build was falling apart in a matter of days. But Admiral Young-ho and his most loyal supporters were not giving up. They had gathered the remaining loyal ships at a secret base in the Dead Star system of Zerion Prime, where they were making desperate plans for a final counterattack. "If we cannot rule the galaxy, then we will burn it down," Admiral Young-ho declared to his remaining commanders. "We still have 12 planet-killer weapons. We can use them to destroy human worlds and force them to negotiate." But Master Chief Tai-hyung had already anticipated this move. His intelligence network had located the secret base, and human fleets were already moving to surround it. The final battle of the war was about to begin, and when it was over, the galaxy would learn the most important lesson in human military history: never threaten human children, never plan genocide. Against human families, never make the mistake of thinking that human mercy is the same thing as human weakness. The sleeping giant was fully awake now, and it was very, very angry. Master Chief Tae-hyung moved through the dark corridors like a hunting predator. His advanced stealth suit made him nearly invisible to the alien sensors that scanned the hallways every few minutes. The Coalition had excellent security systems, but they were designed to catch alien intruders, not human special forces operators. He had spent the past 3 months learning every detail of the massive ship: the ventilation systems, the power conduits, the communication arrays, the weapon control centers. He knew where every important system was located and exactly how to disable each one. His mission tonight was to turn the Coalition's greatest strength into their greatest weakness. His first target was the main communications center located deep in the ship's core. The room was protected by multiple security doors and guarded by armed Reptican soldiers, but Tai-hyung had been planning this infiltration for weeks. He knew the guards scheduled the security codes and the exact location of every camera moving like a shadow. He reached the first security door and attached a small device to the electronic lock. The device had been designed by human engineers specifically to hack Coalition security systems. Within seconds, the door slid open silently. Inside the communications center, dozens of alien technicians were monitoring signals from across the galaxy. They were so focused on their work that none of them noticed the human intruder moving through the darkness above them. Tai-hyung crawled through the ceiling spaces until he reached the main transmitter array. He carefully placed micro-explosive charges on the critical components of the system. The explosives were so small that they looked like ordinary maintenance markers, but they contained enough power to completely destroy the communications equipment. When activated, they would cut off the coalition fleet's ability to coordinate with their home worlds or with each other. His next target was the power distribution center. This was the heart of the ship's electrical system, and controlling it would give him power over everything from life support to weapons systems. The center was located in a heavily armored section of the ship, but Tae-hyung had found a way in through the maintenance tunnels. As he worked his way through the narrow passages, he thought about his home on Earth. He had a wife named Min-jung and 2 young children who were probably sleeping peacefully in their beds right now. They had no idea that alien forces were planning to murder them and billions of other innocent humans in just 2 days. That thought made him work faster and with deadly precision. The power center was guarded by 4 coalition soldiers from different species, but they were not expecting any trouble. The war was over and they were supposed to be celebrating victory, not watching for enemy infiltrators. Their relaxed attitude would be their downfall. Tae-hyung waited in the shadows until the guards began their hourly patrol route. Then he moved quickly and silently through the power center, planting devices that would overload the ship's shield generators on his command. He also installed a special virus into the main computer system that would give human forces complete control over the ship's defensive systems. While he worked, he could hear the sounds of celebration echoing through the ship. The alien soldiers were still drinking and singing and congratulating each other on their great victory. They had no idea that death was walking among them, preparing to turn their moment of triumph into their worst nightmare. In the grand dining hall, thousands of coalition officers were gathered for the official victory feast. The massive room was decorated with banners from every member species of the coalition. Long tables were loaded with food and drink from dozens of different worlds. The air was filled with the sounds of laughter music and happy conversation in 100 different languages. Admiral Young-ho stood at the head table wearing his finest uniform and all his military decorations. He raised his glass high and called for attention from the celebrating crowd. The noise gradually died down as thousands of alien faces turned toward their supreme commander. "My friends," he began, his voice carrying clearly through the huge room. "Today we celebrate not just victory over the Vorthons, but the beginning of a new age of peace and prosperity for our galaxy." The crowd cheered and raised their glasses. Commander Ji-hoon was sitting at one of the honor tables, but he had not touched his drink. Lieutenant Mina noticed his troubled expression and leaned over to whisper in his ear, "Sir, you seem worried. This should be a night of joy and celebration." Ji-hoon looked around at all the happy alien faces surrounding them. Most of these beings were good people who truly believed they had been fighting for justice and peace. They had risked their lives to stop the Vorthan Empire from conquering innocent worlds. They deserved to celebrate their victory. But something was still bothering him about the absence of human forces from this celebration. "Mina," he said quietly, "do you remember what human military officers used to say about their fighting doctrine?" He thought for a moment. "I remember Master Chief Tae-hyung telling us that humans always prepare for the worst possible outcome, even when things seem to be going well. Why do you ask?" Before Ji-hoon could answer, the lights in the dining hall began to flicker. Emergency alarms started sounding throughout the ship. The celebration stopped instantly as thousands of confused voices began asking what was happening. Then a human voice spoke through the ship's communication system, clear and cold and filled with deadly purpose. "Attention, coalition forces. This is Master Chief Tae-hyung, United States Navy SEALs. Your leadership has betrayed everything you claim to fight for." The dining hall fell completely silent. Every alien face was turned toward the speakers, with expressions of shock and growing fear. Admiral Young-ho grabbed a communication device and tried to contact his security forces, but nothing happened. The communications were completely dead. Tae-hyung's voice continued. "We know about your plans to use planet-killer weapons against human worlds. We know about your intention to commit genocide against 20 billion innocent people. We know that you planned this betrayal while human soldiers were dying to save your worlds from the Vorthan's captain. Soman stood up from her chair, her 4 arms shaking with emotion. This cannot be true, she called out. Admiral, tell them this is some kind of mistake. But Admiral Young-ho said nothing. His face had gone pale and his hands were trembling. He knew that. Somehow the humans had discovered the secret plans that were supposed to be known only to the highest coalition leaders. The human voice spoke again, and this time there was something in the tone that made every alien in the room feel cold fear. You made 2 critical mistakes in your planning. First, you assumed that humans would fight defensively around our home worlds. Second, you thought we would follow your rules of warfare and show mercy to enemies who threaten our families. The lights flickered again, and several alien officers began moving toward the exits, but the doors had been electronically locked. Let me teach you about human military doctrine. Rule number 1. Never start a fight with someone who has nothing left to lose. Rule number 2. If you break rule number 1, make sure you finish the job completely. Rule number 3, you did not follow rule number 2. Throughout the coalition fleet, similar scenes were taking place as Tai-hyung's team activated their hidden devices. Communication systems failed. Power grids overloaded, security doors locked shut, trapping alien officers in their quarters. The most advanced military force in the galaxy was being systematically disabled by 12 human special operations soldiers. But that was only the beginning. Far across space, human fleets were dropping out of hyperspace in perfect coordination around major coalition worlds. The aliens had expected humans to defend their home systems. Instead, Admiral Hyejin had ordered simultaneous attacks on 12 different targets. The coalition had scattered their 3,000 ships across dozens of star systems, believing they were safe from any possible human retaliation. They were about to learn that they had made a terrible mistake. Oh, the bridge of the battleship Defiance. Admiral Hyejin watched as her tactical displays showed human fleets engaging coalition forces at targets across the galaxy. Her 800 ships were outnumbered almost 4-1, but each human vessel had been built for one purpose: war. While coalition ships were designed for exploration, trade, and peacekeeping missions, human warships were pure instruments of destruction. Every weapon, every armor plate, every system had been optimized for combat effectiveness. All ships engaged designated targets. She commanded, "Priority is disabling enemy command and control. Do not destroy civilian infrastructure. We are liberators, not conquerors." The message was transmitted to every human fleet commander using quantum communication systems that the coalition could not intercept or jam. Within minutes, the greatest military operation in human history was underway. Back in the coalition dining hall, Admiral Young-ho finally found his voice. "This is impossible," he shouted at the speakers. "Human forces are scattered across the outer rim, hunting Vorthan survivors. They cannot possibly mount a coordinated attack, Master. Chief Tai-hyung's laughter echoed through the room. "That is what we wanted you to believe. Admiral, the Vorthans were defeated 6 months ago. Your intelligence services have been receiving false information fed to them by human agents. You never knew where our real fleets were positioned." The truth hit the alien officers like a physical blow. They had been completely deceived. The humans had been planning this counterattack for months while pretending to be loyal coalition allies. Welcome to Human Warfare: The Voice.